Should we start?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are coming. Welcome, all of you. I see a lot of known faces. Great. So it's 7:30. Let's not wait. If people come in, I will admit them in. So we have with us Trishita, uh, who's an entrepreneur in her own right, running her own factory in West Bengal. And so, Trishita, you can start with an introduction of yourself, and then we can get into the discussion.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So,
Another ground rule is that we will uh, have a half an hour session after the uh, panel discussion is over for your queries and questions. So keep them with you. We will open the house for any sort of queries and any sort of comments that you want to make after the discussion. The discussion would be about 1 hour. Post that, we will have another half an hour where we can have the audience interaction. Okay, over to you, Trishita.
thank you. Adding on to that, you can actually drop in your questions in the chat section and we can pick them up after the discussion's over.
Great.
Hello, everyone. So I'm super delighted to be here today. Like Mr. Mitra mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur with my own factory, and we operate in the MSME manufacturing sector. I've also have had a recently passed corporate background. Our business is family-led, and my father started it about 35, 40 years ago, and now I've recently joined him to move ahead in the journey together. We specialize in coal and mineral beneficiation and material handling systems. And back in the day, we began with precision components along with analog magnetic recording devices for cassettes and all sorts of recording devices. And as the business went ahead, we focused more towards becoming. Sorry, can we please have the mic? So then we went on to become manufacturers in coal and mineral beneficiation. And we also work for import substitution components for our clients as well. So recently, I came across the Gemba HR framework because I was reading up and how about managing workforces, and because we have been like grappling with several issues. And Gemba HR seemed to be offering promising solutions for people processes. And we have with us Mr. Mitra today, founder of the Gemba HR Forum. And I'm particularly interested in understanding how we can apply this framework in our organization to address the specific challenges we have and enhance our operations. But definitely we'll start off with a brief introduction about what Gemba HR is when it comes to people processes, and then we can take on from there. Over to you.
Thanks, Trishita. So Gemba HR framework is a way in which we look at how HR delivers value to business. Now, when I'm talking about how HR delivers value through business, every aspect of HR definitely has an impact on the business deliverables. But when I talk of Gemba HR, I talk of the HR department or the HR processes and the HR people who are like associated with a business and delivering the results of the business through certain people initiatives. The way they treat people, the way they work with people, the way the various people-related issues are handled. So that there is the people advantage can be given to business and business can achieve its objectives. Now, I have a short 2-slide presentation which I will share, and then I'll take you through what exactly the Gemba HR framework entails.
Sure.
Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, it is.
So if I look at it, how do people, like what does HR department do to ensure that business gets the people advantage? Now, when we talk about people advantage, there are three things which HR actually needs to do. They have to ensure people are available. Need to have the right type of skills, the right type of people with the right type of attitudes to do the different activities which are required for running the business. The second is to ensure that even if these people are available, are they competent enough to deliver what is expected out of them, to deliver the business results? Now, when we talk about competence, again, the world is changing. So today I have a particular skill, I know a particular software system. Tomorrow, the entire world changes, that software system becomes defunct. We get into some other sort of a software system, so you have to learn. It's a continuous process. So continuously keeping people competent is one of the major ways in which HR ensures that the people advantage is delivered to business. And third, of course, is engaged. Even if the people are available, they are capable and competent, unless and until people are engaged, people have their mind in the work, people like to work for the organization in the particular job that they are in, they will not deliver the business results for you. They will just do whatever minimum is necessary. So the business that drive that business needs from its employees to build the competitive advantage through people, that will not come unless and until people are also engaged. And this is a major challenge. I was just going through the latest 2024 Gallup survey, where their worldwide finding is about 23% of people are actually engaged. About 62% are somewhere in between. They are not fully engaged. And the rest are actively disengaged. Actively disengaged are people who are maybe bad-mouthing the company, people who are leaving the company. So there is action behind this. And then there is a huge population of silently not being engaged, silently disengaged people. And this is not a very good thing. I don't know, as a function, as a global industry, as a profession. And if this is the scenario that people are only 23% of the people have the mind in their job, the quality of customer service, the quality of results that these businesses want to achieve really cannot come. So there is definitely a requirement, to keep people engaged. I'm just holding on to this engagement point because this is a very serious and important point which gets discussed, and it's a very relevant topic for today, especially given that I went through this Gallup survey where there's 23% of people are actually engaged. So these three things, available, competent, and engaged, actually ensures that the people resource is delivering for the achieving the business results. So this is the why part of Gemba HR. Why do we have Gemba HR? Because we want full advantage delivered by ensuring people are available, competent, and engaged. The what part is all these HR processes that are part of any HR department. You have manpower planning, recruitment, budgeting, performance management. This constitutes the why. All the HR processes that we work on a day-to-day basis, which we hear about, talk about, the HR practitioners who are here, they would know about it. This constitutes the why. Now, there is another thing, which is the how. The methodology in which Gemba HR, these principles can be deployed. And any HR decision that we take, there has to be three steps, which is a diagnosis, which is the first one. It has to be rooted to data. It has to be rooted to the reality of the business. So this is what we call diagnosis. Diagnosis not only means analyzing your internal results, your internal data, etc. It also means benchmarking with other organizations, looking at secondary data, uh, which is there available, any study which was done. Sometimes the commissions studies, for example, salary surveys for certain section of employees. We ask organizations to give us the feedback on salary surveys. So the diagnosis is a very important part. Once the diagnosis is over, then you get into what we call the design phase, where you get the insights from your diagnosis, understand what is required to be done, and therefore create the plan. That this is what we are going to do. Uh, this is the action that we are going to take on this particular thing. The last part of it is, of course, the deployment, which is actually doing the thing. I can explain this entire process to one example. Say, for example, Trishita, you want to hire maybe a sales manager in your organization, a national sales manager. So firstly, the diagnosis that if I would hire a sales manager or an additional salesperson, this is the amount of revenue that I would be able to get. This is my business, which is currently remaining untapped because of not having a resource. So this is what I will be able to do. Then the second level of diagnosis goes into understanding what does your competition, what are the type of people who are there in your competition. Once you have that through, then you come into understanding that if I have to hire a person with this possibly with these qualification, this level of exposure and experience, then this is the amount of compensation that I would need to pay.
Yeah.
So this constitutes the diagnosis part. Then you get into a design phase where you first understand that where can I get this person? If I'm doing a hiring, do I need to engage a consultant? Do I need to go to a web portal where such people would be available? Do I go to LinkedIn or any other social media platform? So this is basically your sourcing plan. This is part of the design. And then the actual, and also during the planning, you might want to do what is the type of assessment that you would do. You plan that. You might want to do a psychometric assessment. You might want to do a reference check, a very uh, detailed reference check by a third-party organization, so that you get the correct information about the person. Uh, you might, and then of course, when you're doing your interaction, what type of an interview, who will meet the person, who are the people, will there be a group interview, will it be one-on-one? All these plans are made in the design phase. And deployment is actually doing the process, scheduling the interviews, getting the work done, taking the feedback. A lot of times, even at the design or the deployment phase, you might go back to your drawing board and see the plan, and maybe you need to change. Typical example happens that you have an idea that I need a person with 15 years of experience, because that is what typically industry have. But when you go with the 15-year experience in the market, you see that the budget that you have, um, typically the budget is higher for the person with this 15-year experience. Then you might need to, compromise a little. And you might also find out that a person with 10 years of experience may be doing a similar type of job. So therefore, you might want to, change some of your specifications to ensure that it meets your budget, it meets your requirement, and you get the right person in place. So this is the D3 model. That's basically the model of how the Gemba HR framework is deployed. So this is basically one part of the HR role that we have in manufacturing organizations, factories. Another big part, which is there in all organizations, also very, very critically there in manufacturing, is the risk management part, where a couple of things which are there, while it is not directly, giving that people advantage, but these are hygiene factors which require to be there. If you don't have industrial relations typically deal with the unions, if there are unions in the organization, how are you interfacing with them? Typically with unions, you will have a periodic uh, long-term agreement where wages are fixed, productivity norms are agreed. So how is that? Is the union, how is the workforce? Are the workforce, if you want any change to be brought about, is the workforce willing to take up the change, or the union is very rigid on making around change? All these things come into place, and this has an important bearing on how your factory culture is, how you will be able to deliver the people advantage. Similarly, discipline. If your workforce is indisciplined, your workplace is not very psychologically safe.
Yeah.
So you need to, if you have to give a psychologically safe workplace to your employees and ensure that the culture is conducive to good, to productivity, to development, to learning, then discipline is a very basic requirement. And if there is indiscipline, that is something you will not be able to deploy. Therefore, it is very important that you look into discipline. And obviously, labor is a very important has a very important legal aspect. It is part of what we call the concurrent list. So both the central government as well as the state government, they make laws on this. So you need to understand that there are central acts which have corresponding state rules.
Mm.
One of the big changes which is happening is that the new labor code has already been introduced as acts, and it has replaced a lot of about, I think, more than 50 acts that we had in terms of labor and personnel. And the new labor codes are there, but it is still not got deployed because of various reasons. But it is also there in the 100-day checklist of the new government, which has been formed, that they want to roll this new labor code, which has in some of the areas, there are some very critical changes which are there. In fact, on the 9th, we have a session which is focused on the new labor code. So I would, anyone who wants to know about how the new labor code is going to impact, HR and business, I think they should attend the session. I have Mr. Vipin Arora, who's my senior from XLRI and a consultant currently in Delhi, and Dipanjan, who is the senior general manager of employee relations in Mami Limited, based in Kolkata. They would be talking about the impact of the labor code on the various aspects of business and which are the critical things to look forward for. So mark that in your diary. That is something which is going to be very, very interesting topic, and it's a very relevant topic. If the new code gets rolled in, there are a lot of changes which we'll have to go through, and we will have to understand those. Now, this is the framework, that this is how HR creates value in the workplace. Another very important thing is, while I typically come from a very strong manufacturing background, manufacturing HR background, and therefore, when I look at Gemba workplace, it is basically the shop floor, the factory. But when I discuss this with my colleagues, CHROs, as well as other business HR leads in various other businesses, for example, in retail, in BPOs, in hospitals, hotels, the basic fundamental principles remain the same. You still need people to be available, competent, and engaged. You still need to diagnose and design and deploy your processes. So that actually is therefore industry neutral. One. We are starting with the manufacturing thing because Gemba HR requires a lot of industry industry exposure to actually be very relevant to that specific industry. So we are starting with manufacturing, but over time, we will also have Gemba HR role for retail, Gemba HR role for hospitality, Gemba HR role for healthcare, and the various services. Those are things in the pipeline. And the second very important point is, it is scale neutral. A small factory or a large factory. Again, you will need your people to be available, competent, and engaged. And these are the three things, the three steps that you need to do to deploy anything. Whether you are a huge organization with a huge HR department or a very small factory, you will need this framework will help you, achieve your goals in business through delivering the people ace advantage. Now, how do we deploy this? There are two ways in which we do it. See, the success of the Gemba HR principle and the framework is that you have robust processes and you have competent people in your HR function. Unless you have both of these, you will not be able to get the full benefit of the Gemba HR advantage, the people advantage. Now, when we talk about processes, now how do we deploy this in industry? There are two ways. One is we go to corporates, we look at their various processes, assess them in terms of one, each process will have a delivery, a target to be delivered. For example, if I talk about recruitment as a process, lead time to fill up a position is one process parameter which defines the success or the failure of that process. So first we check what are the results which are coming out, various parameters that we have, which spans your availability, capability, and your engagement. We measure those. Also, we look at how these processes are getting deployed in the current situation and is there scope for improving them. So if you have a recruitment process, I'm sticking again to recruitment process which is complicated and lengthy. Too many interviews happen for one person, or very few interviews happen. Some of the people, someone takes the interview and says that, yes, you need to take care of, this is a person that you need to employ. Now, the person who's the immediate boss has not met the person, so he doesn't have a say in that. So you need to understand those ways. How robust is your process to ensure that this can be done? And secondly, you need competent people to run these processes, to run the Gemba HR thing, who knows the Gemba HR framework, who has skills, knowledge, and some experience on hands-on working in some of the HR areas. So the way we go ahead is that with corporates, we do the diagnosis and give them a report that these are the areas, these are the processes where you need to work upon and improve. We also say that we can also train your people, your HR department people, on the Gemba HR principles, so that when they, in future, when they are developing something, making certain changes, they follow these framework of diagnosis, design, and deliver, and ensure that the processes are robust so that the people ace advantage is delivered to you. Also, we are talking to various educational institutes. Even for freshers, we can open this training program for training people and certifying them on the Gemba HR framework, so that when they get into a manufacturing organization, a factory as a HR person, they are already equipped to know what they are supposed to do, which is a big problem, which even when I started my work, when I passed out from XLRI and I remember joining Bharat Petroleum, the first 7 to 10 days, I was completely lost. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And yes, there was an induction which was planned. I had my senior who took me through the process. But at that point of time, I also felt that if my institution could have given me this type of an orientation, this type of a training, it would have been much easier for me to, start getting into the job much faster, understanding my role much faster, and therefore contributing much faster. That is one. And therefore, this is a more, I would say, so it's a combination of both process excellence as well as people excellence. So people excellence through a hands-on training program for people who would be taking up the role, and assessing processes which are currently there and finding ways and means of improving them so that they are optimized and they are also something which, optimized and they are delivering the best results which are required by the organization. So this is how Gemba HR is deployed. I wanted to ask you, Trishita. So now that you have taken over and you are also taking care of, handling the labor and people part of your business, what are a couple of challenges which you face? So then I can explain to you how we can apply the Gemba HR framework, in looking at these problems. Over to you.
Yeah. So very interesting and helpful insights until now. But yes, challenges for us that we've faced is one major issue that I have noticed in the recent past is availability of manpower. And if we were to roughly divide the year into parts of like higher demand time in terms of workload and a lull period through the year, the last quarter of the year is usually slower given that it is a very festive season starting with Durga Puja until the new year. But the rest of the year, there is no
Your
specific time.
third quarter, basically in your financial year, your third quarter.
Financial year, third quarter,
Third
yes.
quarter.
Yes. And given that, so the rest of the year, there is no like specific time as to when there's a like spike in demand, but it can come anytime. And what is most difficult is it's tough to escalate, like quickly scale up the workforce to meet the demands at that point in time. And this usually often leads to overburdening ourselves with an all hands on deck situation and maybe quality issues and delays in production. And that is something we've been juggling with. And if you could really help us with that, like how Gemba HR can help.
Okay, certain
On that.
questions. Now, firstly, the type of people that you need. Uh, are they skilled? There is a skill requirement for them. What type of people do you need?
Yes. So mostly people like welders, people who will be operating on equipment and tools. So some sort of training that they have already had or similar experience in the trade.
Okay. And typically, how do you hire? Do you hire from the market? Do you hire apprentices, freshers? Do you take experienced people, or you are also looking at taking in apprentices and
Um,
freshers?
Both. We're open to both. And of course, the terms and conditions of hiring differ from whether they are people who come with an experience or they're freshers. And we've had both in the past. Right now, we only have people with experience. But yeah, I mean, both the situations work well for us.
See, I think I'm just opening the forum to everyone. A lot of people would be there from HR. Availability of talent and availability of manpower, I think, is a common. I don't think I've worked in any organization which does not have this as a stated problem. That we have a availability of talent problem. And it is at all levels, whether it is white collar. Agree with this, friends? Just asking your opinion on this. I think this is a very common HR problem which anyone would face in any organization. That that there is a lack of talent. Yeah. Now, okay, in your specific case, so you're saying that about 9 months you have. So you run how many shifts? One shift, two shift? What is the
No,
operation?
it's one
Oh, one
shift.
shift operation. Okay. So have you looked into the idea? Obviously the exact problem that how we solve would also depend upon, I have to get more granular understanding your manpower requirement at the various skill levels. But some of the pointers which I can give to you is that, can you look at increasing your shifts for your peak periods? That is one way of it. Of course, given that there is even within the period of the 9 months, there would be certain fluctuations. We need to really see that how big a shift I require for the thing. Secondly, temporary manning. That is something which, do you take people on a temporary basis?
Yes, yes, yes. We've
In
done that
like,
in the
are they
past.
contractors, from contractors or apprentices? How do you take them?
They've either been from apprenticeship programs or like the industrial belt that we operate from. It's mostly through word of mouth. And because we know almost every like business owner in the area, and it's just a common
They
conversation that
loan their people to you, so they
yes,
work work in your plant whenever there
Yes.
is a short. That's a very good thing, actually, because, if 7 or 8 companies can come together, everyone will have a lull period, but their lull period might be a peak period for someone else.
Someone else,
So you
yeah.
can give the manpower to these people, and that's a very, very interesting thing that you have mentioned. Uh, Another thing which you can also do, of course, you have you heard of the NAPS and the NATS, the new apprenticeship policy, where you can hire people in trade for 6 months to 2 years. There
Not
is a
very well versed with it, but yeah.
and then the government subsidizes a part of their wages and salary. There are certain uh, benefits which are there. There are the retirement benefits, etc., which you give to permanent employees. You don't need to do. I think Geeta already has said hiring temporary manpower like interns, like apprentices. There are possible ways of doing it. So, see, the wonderful thing is, Trishita, the group out there have also a lot of experience handling these problems. So our audience can give us very good insights, and use your chat box. Give us insight, anything that you think you would be able to give some advice to Trishita on her problems. You're welcome. Please do that. And so, so there are ways and means in which you can actually look at temporary hiring so that your period of 9 months you have an additional coverage. Also, you can look at again, I'm speaking off the cuff. You design your leave in such a way that people take leave only during that time. So
Mhm.
you tackle your absenteeism problem during your peak months. And the lull period is a period where people actually can take leave because you will also don't not require them so much. So there are ways and means of handling it. Again, the steps to be followed. First, the diagnosis. What do I need? How much manpower do I need? What is my forecast of business in the coming year? If this is the plan, see again, there's one certain other thing which you need to take into account. If you're taking apprentices, they are freshers. You'll have to
Yeah.
train them. So there is a lead time for that. To make them because what I can understand, it is blue collar, it is something manual skill which they have to come
Yes.
up with
Yes.
because it's equipment manufacturing. So it's either welding or something.
Yeah.
So while they come with that trade experience, trade knowledge from the college, you will have to give some training. So you will have to plan that. Say if you are going to say that from January, my business is going to, my production levels are going to go up, then you need to get these people on board in your September, October period, and you have trained them in September, October, November, December, so that in January, when actually the peak is there, they are ready.
They're ready by then, yeah.
So first, this diagnosis and the design has to be there. Diagnosis primarily in this case would be understanding the type of manpower. Where will I get this? Understanding the type of manpower and how much am I going to take permanent manpower? How much am I going to take a temporary manpower? That is something which you need to work out. Another thing which you need to work out at the design phase is, of course, the sourcing. If you're going for hiring from the colleges, understand when these colleges have their placement. Can you tap into the alumni network? Sometimes it happens that you can have people from earlier batches also who have not found employment, so you can tap those resources. So this is something which you can do in your design phase. Uh, Additionally, of course, yeah, again, Gita has very clearly stated manpower planning should be there before taking temporary staff, which is very important. This planning part, which I'm talking about, the diagnosis is very important. But you need to first know that this is what I want to do. And I need to know this at least 6 months in advance before I'm doing it.
Mm.
And then slowly build up your plan. A part of the design is you go to which are the manpower providers, which are the colleges which can give you these skills. Talk to them, take these people on board. So you have to have the interview process done. You'll have to have your trainers ready. So when these people come in, You don't waste time. They should not be in the shop floor doing nothing, knowing nothing. From the time that they have come in, your meter has started. You will have to get them ready for the job within the shortest period of time. So that requires that design, that very important design phase. Your plan has to be ready in advance. So firstly, understanding the numbers. When do I need these people? So the dates. Therefore, making the plan. So therefore, the plans are, how am I going to source? If I'm going to source, how am I going to train them? Even if I'm taking people from outside, they might come with 80% of the skills, but the 20% I'll have to train them. So these plannings are very important. It should not be that you have manpower, but this manpower also doesn't know what I'm supposed to do. So that is a waste that is going to happen. That is a cost which is you are incurring. So this is why the planning, and very rightly Gita has mentioned it, that the planning has to be there, and the planning has to be there quite some time in advance, because there are a lot of lead times involved. If I'm talking about the training, it will take some time. If we're talking about the hiring, it will take some time, because colleges will have their own schedules. They will have some time when your placement, you come from an engineering and MBA background, so you know the scene. So you will have a particular time for placement. Now, if that is the time for placement, it may not match with your time, your requirements. So those are very important parts which we need to take care of. So internal, so I think Indrajit from Aircore Mindset, he's all coming up with something like a GET program, internal tech training program. So we do it for graduate engineers, but for even for blue collar, it is as relevant and as important as possible. Objective is, I get the person on board, how fast can he go into my line and start contributing? How can I minimize this time? So you can work this out. You can look into this diagnosis and the design part. In case you require any help, just get in touch with me. I'll help you how to plan this out.
Definitely, yes. Like very helpful points. And thank you everyone for your inputs in the chat box as well, because the points are very interesting to look at as well. So yeah. We have a question, but then we are taking it up later, right?
Yeah, Partha, I will come to your question.
So this was about manpower availability, and something not at all related to it is the safety culture in a workplace, which is of prime importance. And what I have noticed is that blue-collar workers are not really very happy following safety cultures, and especially having them to accept wearing a PPE while they are working is very difficult. And the usual excuses are Kolkata heat is terrible. We are sweating, and it's uncomfortable to work in them. It's difficult to do heavy machinery jobs while we are wearing them or using them. So how do we implement Gemba HR there to have them align with the safety culture that we've incorporated in the organization?
Okay. See, this is a very Indian phenomenon. We are not very safety driven.
Yeah.
You see the number of people, two-wheeler drivers without helmets, which is absolutely something which is very dangerous. But yeah, in India, this is a big challenge, and especially blue collar, not so much the new age people, because they come with some degree of training when they're coming from ITIs, when they're coming from the diploma engineering schools, but especially the older generation, these probably using the glove is very, I can't do my work with the gloves on. Helmet is too hot, so I can't keep it on. So these are typical. This is a very, again, very common challenge which is there across factories. But there has been very many success stories in Indian industry on safety culture. I remember working for ITC, and I've seen that safety was something which came before anything else. Now, it is a journey. It is not something that even if you start today, it will happen tomorrow.
Okay.
Because it's like changing the mindset of a big community of people. And they don't come from that social understanding of safety. There is no social understanding of safety, even in their families.
Cool.
So to train those people or to get that, change their mindset so that they become safety focused. There are interventions which you need to start off with. But again, it is not a magic wand that just by starting the intervention, it will happen overnight. It will take time. And you have to consistently follow these interventions to ensure that this happens. Okay, so a couple of things, of course, there are things like, which are very, very, I would say, first level is that you have visual displays about safety, communication about safety, giving safety talks, making safety a important topic in the workplace. That's one of the steps which you need to take. So you have sessions by safety, you have these fire safety trainers, you have safety programs.
Yeah.
Which continuously tell, it's the same message, maybe going to the people over and over again, trying to drill it into their head that if you're working in this area, these PPEs has to be used. The second is the carrot and stick. I'll come to the stick first. See, it is something, if there is an accident, it is something which is not only bad for business, it is also bad for the employee himself or herself. It creates a very, very creates a situation which is not at all desirable. So that has to be built in, and so there is some degree of strictness, disciplinary action against people in case there is some safety violation noticed. That is very important. This has to be, again, a regular thing, which people actually feel the pinch of not following safety standards. It sounds very way that I penalize people for being safe, but that's the way it is. And it is in Indian factories is something which, yeah, safety committee. That is something. Yes, Chandan, that's a very right thing which you have put in. Just making safety important, having a safety committee is a very important thing. So there is a discussion around it. People getting nominated into the safety committee. Members are basically people who go and, spread the awareness about safety. Tell people that you are supposed to do it. If you don't do it, I'm going to go and complain. All these things happen. This is a stick part. So one is making safety an important topic in the workplace. Second is the stick, which is you start taking disciplinary action against people. People feel the pinch. I remember, Imami, one of the things that we did was 3 days of no work. Not allowed into the factory for 3 days. No salary, no pay, no leave. So it's like things like that. And that actually had a big impact. There it was PPEs and also certain other things because there were risk of contamination. So you had caps, etc., which were there. So you had to wear caps, etc., so that your hair, all things don't go into. You could not wear any jewelry. So there are a lot of things which were involved, which is more of quality also, safety and quality. So those are things which, if people did not follow, there was very clearly 3 days they were not allowed to come into work. These are things which you can do. Other hand is create safety champions. One very good suggestion which Chandan has given is preparing a safety committee. So you can have people, so, safety committee typically would have uh, departmental representation. Who would come about departmental safety issues?
Mhm.
It is not only wearing of PPE. It is also, there are certain things, for example, uh, the way the store is organized, if there's a fire, you will not be able to go out of the exit door because someone has put things there. So how do you take care of those? The safety is not only the PPE part. There's a lot of big things. So those also come into account. And therefore, not only the PPE is one part of the thing, but safety as a topic, safety as a paradigm, that is something which you need to establish. And safety committee is one big thing. Third one, which I particularly feel works together with the stick, is identifying safety champions and rewarding them. If you find people who are, either identifying hazards, who are coming and telling about hazards, who are speaking up about hazards. Typically, what happens? The hazards are there, everyone is seeing it,
People
but no one
ignore
is
it.
bothered. So, if you want to bring that culture that people highlight, firstly, they have to be aware and they have to be confident of taking it up with someone, right? That this is a safety hazard. So that is one part of the culture. So, can you look at safety champions? Can you look at initiatives where you reward these people, saying that this person has come up with this particular uh, observation, and which we felt took care of a large hazard. If they have ideas, there can be. So this is a very important thing which typically we do is employee ideas. There's one thing which I believe, HIRA is the hazard identification and risk assessment. This is HIRA is what I was talking about. This is the formal name for it, the structured method for detecting and evaluating hazards in your process. That is one very important thing. The main issue which comes in here is if safety becomes a very important topic of discussion in the workplace, once you make this, you have to identify, brand ambassadors of safety. It can be your safety committee members and also the people you reward. Safety champions who come up with things where they say this is an unsafe thing, and they ensure that the correct procedure, the correct safety things are followed. For example, if you are, say, dismantling a machine. Now, if you're dismantling a machine, there are various steps which you need to follow to ensure that the safe that does not become a safety hazard. So work permit is one of them. So you have lockout, tagout, you ensure that the electrical connections are there. There's a physical fencing around that place so that no one can go in at that point of time. Various methodologies are there to ensure that safe standards are followed. So 3 steps. One is ensuring safety becomes an important topic of discussion. And one of the very important thing as you as the entrepreneur or the leaders have to follow that. The leaders have to be the first people to adhere to that. You cannot flout safety norms and expect your people to do it. And that is true for everything. Not only safety. Anything, any rule or any procedure you want people to follow, you have to be the role model to your teams. That is very important. One. The second very important thing is the stick. Start taking disciplinary action if something is happening. And carrot. There's so many processes. Walking the talk. Shomit is saying it's very important that you need to walk that talk. And it starts from you guys, the leadership team.
Absolutely.
These are some of the things which you can do in terms of, it's not only the question of PPE usage, but it is creating a safety culture in which PPE usage is also a very important part. Unless and until you have that, the safety culture, PPE usage by itself will not be a very standardized thing. I think safety committees, also what happens with safety committees are, some people also see this as an additional responsibility and feel that importance that they are doing this for the organization. They are identifying safe areas. So that is the narrative which you need to communicate to people to ensure that this is a safety becomes an important topic and it becomes to a degree aspirational to be a part of the safety committee. So that is the way you need to, develop this safety culture among your people. And of course, through the carrot and stick is immediate responses, and carrot and stick because it is also impacting individuals, and especially the stick part because people come to see that someone is getting penalized. There is definitely a which is there. So these are ways and means in which the Gemba HR methodology. Again, the diagnosis here you need to understand. So if you are saying PPE usage, diagnosis, what exactly are the reasons why people are not using it? Sometimes, the PPEs is one area in my, you also need to look at the designs of these PPEs.
Designs of PPEs, okay.
Sometimes if the PPEs itself are actually hindrances, are they actual hindrances? And is there a way in which they wear the PPE, they get the safety protection, but the discomfort that they have with that, that is taken care of? Can that product side thing also can be done? So when you're looking at diagnosis, look at this. That how first you look at what is the best perhaps equipment. When we talk about heat, especially heat and humidity, looking at material. What type of material are you using for the PPE? Thicker material, a more, uh, what we call a synthetic material may not be very convenient there. So looking at that, that is one side of the story. Second is identifying your people who are the ones who are the typical, typically who don't follow or too reckless, and take disciplinary action against them.
Yes.
The big leaders in your workforce who are not following, take action against them because that has the maximum impact.
Okay.
If you take an impact, if you take a very timid person and take an action against that person, the stronger person will not be interested. It's a timid guy. So management did it. But if you do it on a strong person, everyone will listen. So that's also a part of your diagnosis. That if I have to take this disciplinary action, how do I start? Who do I start with? So once you do your diagnosis, then of course for creating this communication, what do you need to do? What is there in industry? What are other people doing? Is safety committee something that we need to form? Or we need to have, visual display on safety? Can I take them out for a safety training to some of the people? So all these things. So what are the diagnosis? Basically, we'll see what are the various things other companies are also doing, other industry people are doing. Once you get that database, see what is important for you and create the plan. This is what I want to do for implementing safety initiatives. Then you do get these things. Another very important thing, again, to make safety a very relevant is, this is one thing which I have felt is works wonders, is that you have safety day celebrations. Safety day, environment day, quality day celebrations. And a good thing which worked is that, you have a quiz or, you get them to interact and perform something and have external judges or external guests who can be, maybe you can call the factory inspector, because safety also comes under this. Because the factory inspector is good for your PR also, because they also feel great because they're coming in as a chief guest or something. And skits on the shop floor. Shomit has said, yeah, we do. Shomit, we have a lot of the safety day, quality day, environment day, where we do a lot of these activities where, people get involved in this process, and safety becomes a topic which is very regularly coming in the entire narrative of the workplace. Then the culture of safety slowly gets built. Good. I think we are about 8:25, so I want to open the floor to questions. So I was just going through the chats. There are several very great observations and suggestions which have been given by Geeta is one. I saw Chandan is another. Shomit. A lot of people have given a lot of good suggestions. Partho, can we start with your question? I saw some questions which you have. You can come, let us see your face and hear your voice. Partho is a school friend of mine who, apart from being a sales head of a company, he's also an actor and a singer. So Partho, can we have you?
No, no, my question is very simple. See, what
Yeah.
is Gemba into? I mean, that's what I want to know, actually, Binayak.
So Gemba is basically your workplace, and Gemba HR is a way of ensuring that you get the best of your people by following a methodology. How do you follow the
So
methodology?
this
There are 2 ways.
methodology, are you going to teach something? Are you going to employ
Yeah, yeah.
someone? What
There are
is it?
two ways. One is, so the Gemba HR, if you want this framework to be successful in your organization, you need 2 things. One is good processes, robust, efficient processes, and second is good people. So
Right.
one part of the story is robust, efficient processes is that, we do assessment of organization on various aspects of Gemba HR, mainly on these 3 principles of how people are available, are people competent, are people engaged. So we assess the organization and the processes and see where are the improvement areas. So that is one part, which is the process side. And secondly, we also train people, the HR people, on Gemba HR framework so that they are equipped to use the framework in a manufacturing setup. We are currently focusing on manufacturing. We will do the other industries like retail, like hospitality, like healthcare. These are things in the future plan, but currently we are ready with manufacturing. So if in a manufacturing setup, so what we do is that we train a particular person so that they can apply the Gemba HR framework in a manufacturing setup for delivering the people advantage.
See, to be very frank,
Oh,
Binayak, see, we are already into ISO module. We
okay,
are gunning for the BRC module, and we will be also gunning for the SEDEX module.
right.
So are you, I mean, giving training on that? Are you giving services on that? Do you have any consultant on board who is going to give the training on that?
Absolutely. ISO 9001. Now you want, so if you are looking at someone who is going to give you, who does the certification, the certificating agencies, like a
Yes.
DNV or someone. So if you are looking at a certification, so you get lead auditors.
No,
And
that I
depending
know, but those auditors or something, the bodies has to be on board of Gemba. Then only you can give the training and all. I mean, that are you targeting that, or you are targeting only individuals
No, no. This is
to get acquainted with the system?
yeah, it's a different system. It is a system only on the HR part. See, when I'm looking at
Okay,
ISO 9001 or something, it is a complete business, right?
right, right.
But when I'm
So you
looking
are basically targeting to train the HRs. I mean, HRs who are there into the system, get them into
either
your
there or
module, and
who want to join. So one is
okay.
these people, and secondly is also like you have an ISO audit of your various
Hmm,
systems. Similarly, you
hmm,
do a Gemba HR audit of only your
hmm.
HR processes and see where are the areas where you can improve.
Okay,
Okay, am I clear?
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The rest will inbox. No, don't worry.
yeah, take care.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you are looking at someone for you want to do an ISO audit or you want to do an ESG audit, I know people. We can connect personally on that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other question? So, Trishita, you have a lot of very good points on how on both your problems. I'm just scrolling through it. It's there on the screen. all of these can actually be done in your workplace. Just evaluate them, and you can actually, from the comments itself, you can find a lot of takebacks from this
Yes,
session.
I think
Yes.
major solutions lie in the comment section right now.
So I'm
Yes.
stopping the share, opening up to the forum. Any other questions from anyone? Either to me or to Trishita, or any suggestions to Trishita? That also is. Okay, if there are no more questions, I think we can end the session now. Hopefully, you people enjoyed the session. There's one message I've seen. Okay. Thanks, Gita. Thanks for your feedback. So we have recorded the session. It will be available in our YouTube channel. I will come up with the links very soon. Thanks a lot, Trishita, for being part of this. We
For having me.
also, every Tuesday and Thursday, we are having some of these sessions. I will be coming out. Just look into the Gemba HR page. You will be seeing the next sessions. So the next session is there on the 4th, where Gauri of Chrisen and Deepak of Sidel, the CHRO of Sidel, will be talking about talent development. I will be sharing the links for that too very soon. And thanks a lot for all of
Auntie has
you.
a question for us.
Yeah.
Yes. She's asking, is there any certification program to learn more about Gemba HR framework?
Yes, there is a certification program to learn about the HR framework. It is already in process. Primarily, it is now deployed for for organizations, so HR people who are already working in factories, etc. But very soon, I think by middle of August, we would be launching the full panel, which would also be available to people who are freshers or who want to, change careers and want to take up a role in manufacturing HR. So it would be made available, and currently it is already available for people who are currently working in an organization. For them, this training program is available. Is there any of the sessions focused on the tech sector? Now, what is the tech sector? For me, technology starts from engineering and manufacturing to IT. So, Agnish, can you define your definition of tech sector? If it for the
Yes,
IT sector, if you're talking about IT, yeah, but the Gemba HR typically is also relevant for IT sector. In fact, one of my colleagues, friends from XLRI, Anirvan, he's from the IT sector, and he was a very big proponent of he's still a very big proponent of the Gemba HR thing. And he says that the diagnosis, the 3D model is something which absolutely holds true. IT has its own, the PCMM model. They already have certain very IT specific HR modules which are already there. But there are certain components of the Gemba HR framework which are applicable to the IT sector. But the most of the program that we will be having, the sessions that we are having, most of them are industry neutral. So we will have people from IT sharing their experiences, mainly in the people practice area. And so while yes, Gemba HR currently is a manufacturing thing, but the discussions that we are having in the forum is more industry neutral. You will have people from IT, you will have people from various other sectors, from hospitality, from media, who would be also participating in these discussions, and therefore stories and insights would be there from all industries.
Thank you for the clarification. Actually, I should have clarified my question a bit more. I kind of figured this was a very open and generic question that I put forth. So, okay, my question was mainly on, like, by tech sector, I was definitely speaking about IT, but more from the point of view of software as a service. And I'll just expand on my question a bit, because in my several years that I have spent within the SaaS sector, almost my 10th year now, what I have found is most of these company processes, right, are driven mainly by verticals, individual verticals, rather than by the people operations function, right? So with that kind of a caveat, how is like, how do you apply the system that you mentioned without having an overarching uh, team focusing on it?
I didn't get the thing. You're saying that currently the structures are such that the HR is run by the verticals themselves.
Not necessarily. Like, there is definitely an HR team, but that team is focused mainly on uh, talent acquisition and management, and that's the extent of it, right? So most of the people processes are run by the verticals themselves, focusing on specific needs of the specific verticals, right? So in such an environment, right, where every team is focusing on something different, how would you apply a principle at an overarching level, like
Why
as
do
a
you need it?
framework? That way.
So why do you need an overarching thing? Each team, let them have their own ways. Why is this requirement coming up? If you have separate verticals and the separate verticals are running separate businesses, they're attracting separate business segments. Why do you need everyone to have equal things? You can have different. Why? What is the need for uh, same HR practices, principles for the entire organization? Not needed. For example, I will tell you, in Imami, so the manufacturing team and the sales team, there were various HR policies which were different. And it was not only to do with because the nature of the job is different or anything. Yeah, there are certain standards which were same, but way in which a lot of things got deployed were very differently done. And so why do you need everything to be same in the organization? That is my question.
Makes sense. No, so I wouldn't say
And
I would need the same
Gemba
thing.
HR is another which I would like to give you is that it is people practitioner. It is not HR professionals. People practitioners, the best people practitioners are your sales heads, are your factory heads, because they utilize people to deliver results. HR is a function which, yes, which develops the framework of making it easy. But actually, the people leaders and the people practitioners are your business heads. A sales head who runs a set of people, he is the people manager. So it is very important that people practice does not become only the function of HR. People practice is the function of the leadership. Whether he's a sales head, whether he's a production head, whether he's the shift supervisor in the plant, whether he is in a hospital, whether he's the hospital administrator or the resident doctor in charge, all these people. So firstly, the understanding HR, yes, it's a discipline. There are people who are educated in HR, but HR per se in an organization is a responsibility not only of the HR people, but to a large extent to the leadership, to the bosses, because they are running the people. Yeah, there might be HR is something they know best about how their people can be motivated. They know best about what needs to be done. Yes, uh, they may not know about they may not have certain competencies which can be trained to them. There are leadership competencies which can be trained to them, which HR will do. But the actual deployment that I want to retain this person, I want to give him a salary hike, he's leaving. Now, whose call is this? It's HR's call or the team leader's call? It's a team leader's call. So the team leaders are very important people practitioners.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Avnish, for your question. Anyone else? Any queries you have? As I said, that this is anyway recorded. I will put it up in the YouTube channel and share the link. I think there are no more questions, and we can conclude this. Again, thanks a lot, all of you, for being here. And thanks, Trishita, for being such a great help. This is the first time, I think, in open forum, I came up with the concept of Gemba HR. For people who want to know further about the Gemba HR Forum, you can join the forum, of course, and the framework. There is an article which I had published in the National HRD magazine, which came out in this year. This annual magazine which comes out. The link is available in the Gemba HR thing. And if any one of you wants to get a copy of it, please drop me a WhatsApp or a LinkedIn message. I will forward it to you. Thank you, friends. Have a great evening. Bye.